remember that slide that says beneficial mutations versus harmful mutations? Beneficial mutations, why is it such a thing? I mean, there are people that are all excited about mutations. Think about the Xmen, the Hulk, the Fantastic Four, Alphas, the Gifted, Tomorrow People, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Why are mutants or mutations so attractive? Because everybody has in their heart this understanding that there is more to life than what I'm experiencing. But we can't have this, oh, that's what I say next. People intuitively know that there's more to life than what we currently experience, but that more exciting life comes with the disadvantage of requiring us to follow God, which evolutionists strenuously resist, because they can't allow God in because, oh my goodness, then I am going to be accountable for my life. And that means that I'm going to have to answer to God for what I did or didn't do. That's just too scary. Let's pretend God doesn't exist. That'll fix everything. Okay. So what exactly is a mutation? It's a change in the genetic information that is passed on to offspring. Evolution needs mutations because that's allegedly the only mechanism available to provide the diversity we see in organisms everywhere. So genetic information, that is a really important thing. I mentioned earlier that the only difference between an amoeba and a person in the physical, the biological sense, is the information in its DNA. But even the most tiny, tiny virus, which is even simpler than a bacterium, has programming in it that is way beyond anything humans have ever come up with. So imagine you take the operating system of an iPhone or a computer or any of those high-tech things and try to come up with that by just randomly flipping bits. There is not any computer programmers in here? Sure you are, right? Okay. So one of the a typical first assignment in programming any new language to confirm that you know how that language works is to write a program that says print hello world. If you can write that program with proper syntax, compile it, and get it to execute so it says hello world, then you know how to program at least a little bit in that language. You know how to compile and then run it. But even that program would take longer than the alleged age of the universe to create by random chance. Think about that. One little program that says hello world would take longer than the deep time age of the universe if you'd created that only by random chance. So the problem is evolution needs trillions of beneficial mutations, but no one's ever seen one. Harmful mutations are everywhere, but beneficial? No. So what is a mutation? It's a change in the genetic material, but where's that information, genetic information, but where's that information stored? In the DNA. What does DNA stand for? Yes. Deoxyribonucleic acid. It has that spiral, that twisted ladder form. That is where the genetic information is. And it is just mind-blowing how complex it is. So DNA stores genetic data, about 4,000 books worth for humans. You have about 7 feet of DNA in each cell of your body, but it's very thin. So imagine, 7 feet in each cell, and you have several trillion cells in your body. But it's very thin, but it's a really, really good information storage mechanism. But how would you evolve randomly, remember undirected, something into something else. So let's do that with a couple of words. Let's randomly mutate the word trademarks into the word headstrong. Now, they're only 10 letters long, and I'm only using the letters A through T because those are the first 20 letters of the alphabet, because there are only 20 amino acids that are used in DNA, in life processes. There are a whole bunch of amino acids, but only 20 of them are used in organisms. So you might think, ooh, look at that. In position 3 and 4, the A and the D, they're already the right answer. But then you think, oh, yeah, evolution is undirected. So it's just as likely that those will go wrong. In fact, it's a whole lot more likely, because there are 20 different answers there could be, and only one of them is right. So you have 19 times more likelihood of breaking something that happens to be right than making it right. So to translate trademarks into headstrong, how could you do that? Picking at random the first 20 letters of the alphabet for those 10 positions. How many valid English words are there that have 10 letters and that use only the first 20 letters of the alphabet? In my word list, 15,918 words that use the first 20 letters of the alphabet in words that are 10 letters long. How many invalid combinations? Well, 20 to the 10th power, or more than 10 trillion. So there's 643 million wrong answers for every good one. Now again, how are you going to get a good answer? And, you know, even though there's 15,918 actual English words that use the first 20 letters and that are 10 letters long, does it matter which one you get? Well, yeah. If you say, we want to register some headstrong for our new product, that doesn't make sense. Well, it uses the right letters and the words are the right length. Yeah, but it's the wrong word. Or, my brother-in-law is really trademark. Does that matter? Does it make sense? So not only do you have to get a valid word, you have to get the valid word, which makes it even less likely to come up by accident. So beneficial mutations. Evolution says beneficial mutations accumulate. I mean, it's the hand-waving explanation. How does a little simple thing evolve into a big complex thing? Beneficial mutations accumulate. So there are two kinds of beneficial mutations that can be thought about, that can be conceptualized. Equivocally beneficial mutations. Genetic information is actually lost, but there's a convenient side effect. Is that really an evolution? Is it an improvement? No. There's unequivocally beneficial mutations where new functional genetic information is gained. That bottom one is the one that has never been seen. So an example of the equivocally beneficial mutations, flying insect has a mutation that deforms its wings so it can no longer fly. So birds eat it less often. Is that evolution? Is it gaining in complexity? No, it was damaged, so its wings are deformed. It can't fly, but it's temporarily convenient because the birds that used to find it flying around can't anymore, so it gets eaten less often. Is that evolution? No, it's damage, but it has a convenient side effect. Another one, antibiotic resistance in bacteria. For example, bacteria, if you have a harmful bacterium and it's a disease-causing thing and you develop an antibiotic that kills it, okay? Many of them, there are three main mechanisms, but one of them is to attach itself to a certain kind of atom in a certain kind of molecule in the cell wall. Well, there is a kind of mutation that prevents the production of that certain kind of molecule. Therefore, the antibiotic has nothing to connect to. So the enthusiasts of evolution say, see, that's evolution in progress. Well, no, it actually lost genetic information, and that same molecule that the antibiotic attached to do its work also strengthens the cell wall. And now that it's gone, the cell wall is very fragile, and it can tear open and all the guts of the cell spills out and it dies. So is it survival of the fittest? Yeah, and it's not fit anymore because of the mutation. But in that kind of an environment where that antibiotic is there, it's a convenient side effect because it's less susceptible to that antibiotic, even though it's less fit to survive. So, unequivocally beneficial mutations, nobody's ever seen one, even when they try to make them. And nobody really believes that random mutations are actually beneficial, despite evolutionary doctrines. How do we know that? Because if people actually did, they would be flocking to Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island, Fukushima Daiichi, and Bikini Atoll to live there. Just think about all that wonderful radiation. I mean, you'd be able to heal instantly. You'd be able to fly and turn invisible and change your shape and have X-ray vision and telekinesis and all that stuff. No. When you get a high dose of radiation, you get sick and die. Period. And that's why they have lead aprons in the dentist's office. They put the apron over you. Then they walk into the other room to push the button. Why is that? Because they know that radiation causes mutations, and mutations don't cause evolution, they cause devolution. In other words, damage. Things fall apart. Things die. Things get sick. So mutations can also be caused by DNA copying errors, because remember the twisted ladder that I showed a few slides ago? The two uprights split apart, and then new things are attached on both, so it duplicates the DNA. But there is so much information in there, even though it's really reliable, and there are error protection algorithms. It's amazing how complex that is, but there are error detection and correction algorithms in the DNA. Typos happen, and despite these typo-fixing algorithms, some typos remain and are passed on. Those are mutations. Those are, remember, heritable characteristics. And how often do they happen? By analyzing the DNA from grandparent, parent, child trios, this was done in Iceland, more than 63 new mutations appear on average every generation. So if you have a certain number of mutations in your DNA, your kids will have, and this is just the parts that generate proteins. There are other parts of DNA that are epigenetic stuff, and that increases the number even more. But in the areas that have the recipes for the proteins, which are the little machines that cause everything, 63 new mutations every generation. 10 generations more, 630 more. Okay, now that is a problem, because nobody's ever seen a beneficial mutation, but we see 63 harmful ones every generation. How did we get here in the first place? I mean, this is one of those showstoppers, yet another one of the showstoppers that evolution cannot explain. There's a particular evolutionist, more honest than many, and he wrote an article that says, why are we not extinct 100 times over? Because he noticed this. If we are building up mutations this fast, I mean, just in my own lifetime, there are so many more diseases and so many more people getting diseases at so much younger ages than just when I was a kid. In one lifetime, there is so much more genetic damage because of second thermo that was caused by sin that we would not be here. Let me look at this. The genetic load of humans indicates that all of human history is only thousands, not millions of years. Because if it was millions of years, we would not even be here anymore. we would have gone extinct many times over. Mendel's Accountant is a genetic analysis modeling program that it's very accurate and very fast to calculate with, these starting conditions with 60 or 63. Actually, I think they use 60 mutations per generation instead of the actual 63. And they said humanity would go extinct in 350 generations. Well, let's think. If Adam and Eve were about 6,000 years ago, and if each generation is about 20 years, well, that's 300 generations. There's not much time left. We need God, otherwise we are toast. Here's another showstopper of evolution that, again, cannot be explained by mutations. Darwin said that if anyone can demonstrate that an organ or an organism cannot be created by numerous successive slight variations, my theory would absolutely break down. And irreducible complexity is something that is an example of that. The news just keeps getting worse for evolution. Irreducible complexity is another showstopper. What is it? Think about this mousetrap. How many pieces are there to that mousetrap? We have the base, we have the hammer, we have the spring, we have the restraining bar, we have the trigger, we have 3 little staples and 1 big staple. So what part of that mousetrap could be removed and still have it work? None. All of those pieces are needed, absolutely necessary, because if you take any one of those pieces away, the whole thing fails. That's irreducibly complex. You cannot remove any more pieces, any pieces from it, or the whole mechanism fails. Now, there are a lot of irreducibly complex things in organisms. Now, suppose one of those staples was not removed, but was just put somewhere else. Would that be a problem? Well, yeah. Or what if the spring was curled the wrong way? Or the restraining bar was bent? That's only positioning things. Think about, if the hammer was made out of cotton, or the staples were the wrong size, made out of some other substance. So they have to be the right material, in the right shape, in the right location. Otherwise, the whole thing fails. It's irreducibly complex. Why is that a showstopper? Because none of the parts are useful until all of them are there, which means numerous slight modifications would not get you anywhere. Suppose some organism wanted to evolve a mousetrap on its back. So it evolves the base. Well, the base is useless without all the other parts, so natural selection would weed it out. Okay, we don't have the base anymore, but now it evolves the hammer. Okay, what am I going to attach the hammer to? Oh, there's nothing because the base is gone already. Well, that's a bummer. So natural selection would remove the hammer. And then you could do that for all the pieces. None of the pieces would be of any use until all of them are there. Natural selection would weed them out. Therefore, all the pieces would have to evolve simultaneously and instantaneously. Wait a minute, doesn't that sound like... Do humans have irreducibly complex systems? Yes, a whole pot full. Vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, balance, the skin, reflexes, speech, neurological system, endocrine system, respiratory system, digestive system, excretory system, reproductive system, musculoskeletal system, immune system, blood clotting system, to name a few. In all of those things and more, instead of 9 pieces, like on the mousetrap, there are hundreds or thousands of pieces that all had to be there or the whole process would break down. How are you going to evolve any of those Everything would have to evolve instantaneously and simultaneously, which is just creation. Why is reproductive system emphasized? Because that is a particular problem for evolution. Biological evolution requires innumerable tiny changes over huge numbers of generations. Reproduction couldn't evolve because you won't get any generations at all until reproduction works. So you need reproductions in order for reproduction to evolve. It has to exist and not exist at the same time. Well, we are stuck. We are seriously stuck. Okay, so the ultimate mutation. Is it possible for our bodies to ever get better? To be better than they are? Yes, but not through evolution. 1 Corinthians 15. But let me reveal to you a wonderful secret. We will not all die, but we will all be transformed. It will happen in a moment. For our dying bodies must be transformed into bodies that will never die. Our mortal bodies must be transformed into immortal bodies. So, will it happen? Yes. Will it be through evolution? Absolutely not. And that is the end of my material. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes, I should have. Any more questions about the mutation part?
So you said
Thank
they
you.
haven't been able to do even when they've tried.
Right.
So when they've added material, they haven't.
Well, for example, there was one example with hemoglobin, and they took a hemoglobin atom. They took some of the protein, took one amino acid out and replaced it with another one, and it didn't work as well. Now, they were trying to improve it. They were trying to discover, what can we change randomly? But, these scientists are not doing things randomly. They have intention, they have awareness, they have goals, they have planning, all that stuff. So it's not evolution at all. But nevertheless, if you take one piece out, put a different amino acid in, no, that doesn't work either. You take it out. So yes, they've tried to make any kind of a change and have it not degrade the protein or what its function is, and they haven't found one yet that actually is improved, even when we try to improve them. So, the transhuman thing about let's make mankind better. Well, good luck with that. Yes, Bob?
What about the whole GMO thing? I mean, the foods we eat now, so many of them are genetically modified.
Yes, but that's not evolution. What they're doing is taking some code that exists in this organism and putting it into that organism. So it's not evolution, it's not random mutation. They're just basically downloading an app from over here and putting it here. So, well, it may be more disease resistant, but because this is so complex, we don't know if it's safe. And, maybe many people think it's not, but we haven't had them around long enough to have, really solid answers for that. But yeah, that's not randomly evolving something. It is taking working code here and copying it over there. So it's kind of like a whole different animal. But
That's not just one mutation, right? That's like a whole host of mutations and information that they're adding to the other organism.
yeah, and it's already working over there. So it's not creating anything new. It's just shuffling stuff. Let's take something from over there, put it over there, and hopefully that thing will have one of the desirable characteristics over there. And it often does, but does it have undesirable side effects? We don't know.
Would that be kind of like an organ transplant?
Yeah, you could compare it to that. And with an organ transplant, there are rejection problems. So you need the drugs to stifle your immune system so you don't attack yourself. And then, oh, that's an undesirable side effect. We're evolving. Any other questions? Yes.
You're involved in the healing rooms and love.
Yes.
So let's just take a moment and think about the 63, every generation, the 63 mutations that have
Yep.
over people. How would we apply that information to how we pray for people?
Well,
Or can we, in your opinion?
yes, we can, because it is trivial for God to rewrite every piece of DNA in your body. And if you have some, if it's an injury, you broke your leg, or if you have a genetic mutation that is causing, any number, we saw 6,000 that are known so far that are mutation-caused diseases, it's trivial for God to rewrite that or to repair it. So, yeah, we're asking an infinite God to do a finite task. Yeah, you can do that.
So it's often you deal with, we know that there can be curses that come from generation to generation. Very similar to that, of breaking those things and asking the Lord to heal has been damaged.
Yes. Yeah, because spiritual things definitely impact physical things.
So that's a good tool in our prayer tool belt to have and be aware of, to pray that way.
To pray that,
Well, pray for healing. If we have a tool belt of healing,
yes.
gifts of the Spirit, that's a good tool to have in our tool belt, to actually pray that the Lord would fix or heal that genetic.
Yes, yes. And I have prayed for people for God to rewrite DNA. And yes, God can do that.
And have you seen evidence of that?
I haven't seen total healing of that, but that's not God's problem.
That's right.
But I have heard of, for example, autism being healed and Down syndrome being healed. So, yeah, that's genetic. And suddenly God rewrites everything, and he just smiles and says, here you go.
More, Lord.
Yes.
More,